Hi, this is Lucy, your clarity coach, and this is Tuesday Talks at 3. Welcome to episode 4 of the Adaptability and Change Management series. Change is inevitable and growth is optional. So, safe to say then that you need to be looking at being intentional if growth is what you need in your life. This series has got 4 episodes that are going to help you do just that. In fact, we've already covered 3. This is the last one. It's going to help you to be intentional in your growth when it comes to matters personal and matters professional. So how badly do you want to be able to navigate change? That's totally up to you. It's a personal choice. So we started off with the mindset. That was the first series, and that was just amazing. The mindset, we looked at just being able to shift your perspective. When you shift your perspective, you're able to look at something from a different angle, and it's not just your way or the highway. And then the second thing we looked at in that first episode of mindset was embracing discomfort, because change can only happen where there is discomfort. If there's no discomfort, you're not changing. You're just remaining the same. Whether you like it or not, you may try and call it a different name. Change requires you to have some discomfort as you move from one state to another. We then moved into our second episode, and that was all about uncertainty. Uncertainty in change. I mean, these two come together. Uncertainty and change literally come hand in hand. However, when we make these shifts, at times we are so tough on ourselves, and therefore you are encouraged to celebrate self-compassion. Extend yourself some grace, because when you extend yourself grace, you are able to come from a point of understanding what it is that you're looking for, understanding that it's not going to be easy to do this here and now, but hey, change is inevitable. I'm choosing growth because growth is optional. Focus on what you can control was the second point. Now, once you focus on what you can control, it allows all your energy to flow in that direction. At times, we focus on the things that we cannot control. And as a result, we end up having this negativity around us. We're unable to think positive, or that the outcome of whatever it is that we're doing is going to serve us well. So it helps you to focus on what it is you can control and build from that point. The last one was about building a support network. Needless to say, we have been told it's all about the 6 degrees. We have been told that, show me your friends and I will know what kind of a person you are. So build that network. It's time to let go or shed some of those networks or relationships that you had because of the season that you're in. And this is okay, because change happens, uncertainty comes with it, and the way that you respond is key. That was our second episode on uncertainties. Our last episode was on challenges, the challenges that we face amidst change. And those were very many. In fact, to encourage you, I advise you to consider embracing change as inevitable. It's going to happen, whether you're on that gravy train or you're not. Change is happening. If it's not happening right now, it's on its way. So you want to prepare yourself on that mindset, like we did in episode 1, on embracing change as inevitable. Things are not going to remain the same, because then growth is not taking place for you personally and in your professional world. So just look around. If you are still doing the same thing in the same way that you did beginning of this year, no growth has taken place. You want to be intentional about how you're going to grow, and therefore apply it by embracing change is inevitable. And then focus on the solution. As human beings, we tend to choose to focus on problems. You see, when you focus on problems, you attract more problems. In fact, they're going to find you. You don't even need to find them. But if you focus on solutions, all these opportunities begin to surround you. You begin to have aha moments, light bulbs about the same old. But because you have chosen solutions, you find yourself in a situation like, Oh, you mean I could have used this? Oh, that is actually a resource that I could be working on right now. That is an individual I need to have a relationship with because I will go far with them. And then staying adaptable. Having that exercising of being fluid in a situation. Like I mentioned before, it cannot be your way or the highway. The destination is still the same. We're just changing tracks. How are we getting there? And this is where fluidity comes into place. So that is what we covered in our first 3 episodes. And today we're looking at navigating. Navigating in this space of adaptability and change management. And the question is actually a long one today, but I'm just going to ask you the question. How embrace change? How can you and your team effectively manage and embrace change to ensure a smooth transition and sustainable success? How can you do this, you and your team? And just a disclaimer here. Team suggests perhaps to most of you that we're talking about corporate world. Team is just where we have a gathering of people and there is a leader. So where is it that you are a leader? Where is it that you have a leader in your group? For instance, is it in your family? Is it in your places of worship? Is it on your WhatsApp groups? Is it in your health and fitness realm? Is it in your study groups? This is where teams are, people who've gathered together with the same kind of objective. They're looking out to have the same kind of outcome. So this group of people then becomes a team, and there has to be a leader. There's always a leader. And maybe you're the leader. And if you're the leader, this is the great place for you then, because today I'm going to share with you 3 easy ways that you can apply immediately to help you and your team effectively manage and embrace change and therefore have a sustainable outcome. It is pointless, guys, to go into change for here and now. It is pointless to just move a few places or pieces like the pawns in the game of chess for here and now. Because when we think about the main question in our mind, which is about change, then you start to imagine that there's so many things that you have to do to make this happen. And Sally, I'm seeing you. Thank you so much, guys, for being here. Sally, you're saying, hi, Lucy. Hello, fellow listeners. Can you repeat the question, Lucy? All right. I'm going to repeat the question, Sally. The question is, how can you and your team effectively manage and embrace change to ensure a smooth transition and sustained success? I said it's a long one today. My apologies. Today's just one of those because it is the last episode of this series of adaptability and change management. So why don't you share some of your answers of how you've managed to do this effectively? Or maybe it's your wish list. You haven't arrived there yet. Why don't you share them here in the thread, and I will sample some of these answers and let's see where that takes us. So I've promised to share with you some 3 easy ways that you can apply immediately. I mean, right now, even as we are talking. And the first one has got to be communication. And that is communicating effectively. You see, in times of change, fear is something that happens naturally. Because change is suggesting that we are moving from a place that we know to the unknown. And many a times there's pushback when we are moving into this change scenario, into this new environment, because we don't know. That we don't know brings about fear in us. Now, can you imagine just multiplying that by the number of people in your team? If this is how you would feel when things are changed and planned, things that you did not even think could happen are happening right now. Those feelings that you have, knowing that you still have to cross and get to the other side where you can have sustainable success, everybody else in your team is feeling it. And guess what? You're the leader. And if you're not the leader, you want your leader to be able to share with you a roadmap, a way that we are going to move forward, so that it's not the blind leading the blind, but it's this inspirational person who's a leader, who's leading the way, who is motivating me to do things that I would not normally do. motivating me to learn new skills to keep on moving forward? Well, they need to communicate effectively, because once this change is happening and the leader has embraced the change, then it is important that transparent communication takes place, because this is your anchor. Without communicating effectively, then really we've just got a group of people doing what they want to do, and mostly in the space of change, it is fear. So they are afraid, and there's a lot of pushback. There's not going to be any success, and even if it is coming, it is long coming, and when it does, it's not sustainable because there was no buy-in. You did not walk us through it as a leader. So how can you ensure that there's clear and transparent communication with your team during times of change? You need to ask yourself this question, because as you answer this question, you will be able to understand the things that you need to start planning way ahead of time and making them a best practice in your business. Everyone has to remain informed and aligned. That is key. Once somebody understands what they need to do and how they fit into the grand scheme of things, then it's so much easier to get buy-in. You find that with communication, there's understanding that comes, and slowly the fear dissipates. You do not want to feed this fear by not communicating. So what is it that you need to know today, here, now, as a leader about this journey that we are headed to that has suddenly changed? What is it you need to do? Figure that out. What is it that you need to know? Figure it out. What do you need to upskill in? Figure it out, guys, and do it quickly. Because your team, your followers, so to speak, because you're the leader, are waiting for your guideline. So just like I put the disclaimer in the beginning, it doesn't necessarily mean that we cannot apply this to family, though this sounds very corporate. So let's look at your family. What is it that you need to do today in that face of change that is happening at home? For your followers, for your team members, for the people in your home, in your family, your relatives, whatever group that it is belonging to you, feel inspired to go with you. So that just like the way a train pulls all these wagons, when you look behind, you will see that you do have your team following, because you had clear and concise communication. So as a leader, it's important for you to work on open dialogue. What worked for me for the longest time, and given the chance again, I would still apply it. The channel and the methods that I used centered around one-on-one communication. So one-on-one with my teams, and this allowed me to see what their concerns were, to see what their misgivings were, to see what their questions were, to see what their pain points and their joy points were. When I move from that stage, once I've had that kind of conversation, I move on to the meetings. So with meetings, we are looking at, now there's a group of people that I've already spoken to individually, who are almost my ambassadors, and setting the pace for me in a language that everybody understands. Because when I open my mouth as a leader, perhaps people are thinking, whoa, she's so inspirational, she's so clear, she knows what she wants to do, she's so confident. That is how they're coming as they're listening to me, that at times they feel they cannot reach my level. But when a peer actually says to them what I have just been saying, they receive it better. Communicating effectively to the right people so that this can be shared in a group is definitely a method that you can use. And this really works. So meetings are your primary touch point. Be people-centric. Come from a point where you're sharing even your vulnerabilities in the face of change, but then we've got to keep on going. Share facts. Share information. So apart from that, there's a tool that helped me a lot. That is a project management tool. You can get them now free of charge on the internet, or you can get a pro version. The tools that we used in my world had names like Opera, Fidelio. Those are the things that we used during our time. But now we've got even things that have gone ahead, like Salesforce, Sales Navigator. These are things that I used as a leader to help my team be able to monitor the change as we went through it. Therefore, it calls to say that we had moments where we sat down and we regrouped, and we're able to monitor and evaluate. So these project management tools give you updates. They just give you updates. Now, emails on the other side is what I used for instruction, detailed instruction. And I didn't just send emails every day. There were specific days of the week. In fact, it was only one day in the week that I sent instructions. It was on a specific day, because on that specific day, you were able to know today is Tuesday, 4 o'clock, there will be an email with instructions. I'm communicating effectively. So I can see there is a comment here. Let me just sample that comment. Thank you so much, Sally. Let's see what you say. The screen is moving too fast. Okay, there you are. Sally, you say, if in family setting, having the family meetings to know what each is challenges, where each is challenges one may be going through, usually done through, okay, all right. I'm the one who's reading it wrong. So if in family setting, having the family meetings to know what or where each one is, and the challenges one may be going through, usually done during our meal times. Fantastic. That's a great channel or a method that you're using there, Sally. And definitely, I hope those who are here listening today can use this as an example to help you communicate as a family. Because once you begin to communicate as a family like this, then you're able to know where people's touch points are, good and bad. Sally, you've also got another comment there. Thereafter, then it is to meet behind the tent, going to errands with one, or shopping, walking, casual. So one gets comfortable and I'm open. Sally, I get it. So you do it the other way around and it works for you. Fantastic. You start with the main meeting and then you identify each individual, and this has worked for you. Thank you so much for sharing, Sally. Joki, you said, I love the focus on effective. The focus on effective. Are you talking about focusing on the issues that are working for you? Or what is it that you're talking about? I'm not sure what you mean there. Because you say communication can be vague and misrepresented if not done effectively. So, Joki, please give us some clarification there on what you mean by I love the focus on effective, and then we can pick it up from there. So we've got communicating effectively. So as a leader, communication remains two-way. It is not just one way. It's not just you saying things. It's about you speaking and the other person speaking. It is dialogue. It is two-way. And when it is two-way, it is really enriched because I feel heard. I feel seen in the face of change. Remember, I came from a point of fear, but I am moving from a place of known to a place of unknown. So we've used corporate and we've used family. So maybe we'll use those two examples as we continue. The second one is, the second easy way that you can plug and play with is empowering and supporting. Let's see, Joki, you've come back and you've said effective communication is perfect. Most people communicate with hidden cards close to just, oh yes, don't we know them? And at times, aren't we those people? Because we are driven by our objective. And maybe we walk into a room and realize there's going to be a lot of pushback. So we don't put all our cards on the table. Let's check ourselves and have effective communication. Let's have the interest of everybody in that room. It may call for negotiation, and negotiation may not end up being a win-win. It may be a stalemate, it may be a win and lose, but as long as there's mutual respect and we've built on trust, we can revisit this table at a different time. So, Joki, yes, effective communication is perfect. So whatever objective that you have, remember to have the best interest for everybody around the table at the moment that you're communicating. So let it be transparent. So moving on to the second one that you can plug and play is empowering and supporting as a leader. You see, embracing change is a journey. It's not an event. It's not something that happens today and that's the end. Embracing change. Think about in your families. Changes are happening all the time. If you take a specific example, if you've got children in your homes, they have moved from being 8-9-year-olds, they're now 16-year-olds. That's a totally different shift. That is change happening at home. So how do you handle this change? How about empowering and supporting these children? That's just an example I'm giving, and just food for thought. Maybe somebody would like to expound on how they have come across this kind of change in their own homes and how they've managed to work it so that they're able to adapt to this change. So like I said, embracing change is a journey. It's not an event. It goes on, and it suggests that this journey, we were heading in this way. We still are. That is the destination. But now we are having to change the way with which we are going to arrive at this destination. So as a leader, you want your team to feel empowered and to take ownership of those roles that they have during this transition. Again, clear communication. You've got to say, guys, this is how we're going about it. And when you empower and support people, allow them to step into their professional roles, you will be so surprised the kind of wisdom that comes with the knowledge that your team has. So how can you empower these very same team members to embrace change and take this ownership during this transition? It's a very good question, but it's very loaded. It sounds very simple. I would say by starting to clearly define the role they play. Let me give you a bigger picture. In a perfect world, there is a vision. And that vision says, we exist to do X, Y, Z. Then comes the mission, which says, and to do that, this is the drivers. This is what we're going to be doing to achieve that we exist to be. And while we are doing this, these are the values that we are going to be demonstrating. So maybe one of the values is communication, but this is what you're saying. So this can apply in your homes when you are experiencing change. So once you know in the perfect world how, because it's a perfect world, right? It doesn't always happen this way. Then this suggests that there's going to be some roles and responsibilities that we're going to have. Each person is going to have some role that they need to play. So I'm the leader. My role is to have that vision, the eagle eye vision on everything that is happening. The managers perhaps are the ones who are more task oriented, and they're going to make sure that the mission happens every day like a well-oiled machine. And this is where your part comes in. So what part do you play? So and I'm talking about the person who's a team member, you've already defined your role. But now you're being very clear. You're defining their roles, and then you're breaking it down. And back to Sally's idea, you're going on a one-on-one with them, and you're sharing with them what they need to do. And once that happens, what happens next? So when they deliver their work, somebody else then can do theirs. Once that is done, somebody else can do theirs. So it's as if you're passing on this baton from one person to another. A task has to be completed. This is your new role in this change, in this transition that we are going through. And make sure that they all understand their part. Because it is said that whereas managers are more task-oriented, like I mentioned just a few seconds ago, where it's about how a task is done. You know, think about a factory. It's like a conveyor belt, and the manager's ensuring the efficiencies as we're going. They've got their nose, their head down to make sure that the end product is as per your SOPs. Now think about leaders then, because whereas those managers are task-oriented, leaders are inspirational. They are visionary. They're the ones who are full of empowerment because they are building people, almost like building a succession pipeline. It is therefore your responsibility as a leader to provide your team with the necessary support and resources to navigate these challenges. You want to inspire them, motivate them to do the tasks that they're so afraid to do. Motivation, inspiring them. Allow them to make mistakes, because in making mistakes, they will perfect the practice of what they're supposed to do. So what kind of resources can you provide them, or support can you provide them? You can think of mentorship, of coaching. You can think of peer support. You can think of training, upskilling. There's quite a bit of things that you can think about, but sort them out in your mind and in your plan. Know that for me to empower and support, these are maybe the 2 things I'm going to do, or the 5 things I'm going to provide. pay for them, provide the situation where people can actually partake in this support. And therefore, we know that growing together and empowering together and supporting each other just allows us to have a more sustainable end game. It is key. In fact, as I just said, so much more came to mind, but we don't have the time for that here to share that. The question still remains, and Sally, as I shared the question, how can you and your team effectively manage and embrace change to ensure a smooth transition and sustained success? Thank you so much, Njoki and Sally, for sharing your thoughts there. This remains the question. So far we've done 2 easy steps. We've done communicate effectively, and we've done empower and support. For a leader, the third one has got to ring home true for you, and that is lead by example. You have got to be the embodiment of this change, the embodiment of the behavior that is required in this change. Of course, the minute that you saw the change, you were allowed to feel the fear, because so much comes with it, but it is your turn to flip that narrative, because change can be very daunting. So don't try to run away. I keep quiet there for a moment because I'm just remembering all the changes that I went through during my world in the corporate time, or corporate tenure that I held in different spaces. Even now I'm part of associations, and change is inevitable. It keeps on happening. Just as you thought you've got it down pat, things change. So what is it that you're going to do? Are you going to go into a negative spiral? Are you going to stick your head in the sand and hope that things change? Are you going to freeze? Or are you going to rise up as a leader and demonstrate adaptability and resilience to inspire confidence and trust within your team? I hope that is the answer that you're going to give. You're also going to share your stories. You've been here before. Share your vulnerability so that they all can relate to the fact that you are human and that you've been through this before. And this is now their season to go through it. But because you are leading and you're right there in front, they're following you because you're setting an example. You are leading by example. You're showing that it is a process. It just doesn't happen like this. So it's important that you have the right attitude, because your actions and your attitudes, they kind of influence your team. It's like a monkey see, monkey do. So in the face of change, if you're all about positivity, and that's how you're speaking about how it is for a good reason that this is happening, and that we're looking for the opportunities, and we are brainstorming about these opportunities, this same lingo that you're using is what your team is going to repeat out there. So it's key that you watch yourself as a leader, because like I said, your actions and your attitude influences your team. And it influences your team to respond to this change. So maintain a positive outlook and be solutions oriented. Look for solutions. They may not come from you. If you inspire your team well enough, you will find that the solutions come from the team. And that is so good when it comes to buy-in. We get to move faster. It was Kurt Lewin that talked about the 3 stages of change. And that was, the first one was about just doing a situational analysis to see where we're at. And then the second one is where the change actually happens. And that is figuring out what we need to do different now to still reach our goal. And the third part is where now it is sustainable. What do we need to keep on doing so that this change is sustainable? And part of it is attitude. So staying flexible and open to new ideas is what a leader needs to know how to do. Ask the question around the room. What do you guys think? We had a few answers here. There were 3 or 4. Which one would you like us to focus on now as we unpack it? Build trust by being trustworthy. I was leading by example. The example that I can give is, as I was raising my children and I was leading by example, whatever teachable moment that I had, I created it so that any time that I would start a conversation or there would be a conversation starter around us, this is where we had I had an opportunity to lead by example. And I would ask, for instance, when they entered the car after a day in school, once I've picked them up, I would say, what did you like about your day today? That allowed my son and my daughter to open up and speak, as opposed to, did you have a good day? The answers then that came out from there, I kept on looking for the opportunity to lead by example, the opportunity to embrace and support, the opportunity to communicate effectively on matters rewarding or discipline. It was never about shouting the way I raised my children. I was firm with how I spoke with them because I was leading by example, by being consistent. It wasn't easy, guys. There were days I just wanted to throw in the towel. But then practice then made perfect to a certain degree. And now that I'm done and I know that I did my job well. So build trust. Let them trust the process because you are trustworthy. Well, we've come to the end of our session today. And in conclusion, today's session, I shared with you 3 easy ways that you can plug and play here and now. It was clear communication. It was empowering and support. It was leading by example. I know the question was very long today, but I love that you were able to engage with me and you're walking away with some value today. So I leave you with 3 takeaways. 3 takeaways to help you navigate with your teams. Remember, teams here is any group of people that you are leading, whether it's at home, whether it is in your place of worship, whether it's your WhatsApp group, whether it's out on the sports ground, whether it is at work. So create a shared vision. Let us all have a shared vision. Let us see that everybody's reading from the same script. Foster collaboration, easily so by allowing people to understand the part that they play in this vision. Allow people to exhibit and demonstrate their professionalism in the things that we are doing together. The last one is provide continuous feedback, whichever way it is. Whether you are going to bring an anonymous Google form that is going to inform your next meeting, this way your team gets to feel there's an assurance of a safe space. And this way they can grow. Thank you so much for joining me today on the last episode of Adaptability and Change Management. Today it was all about navigation. We were about leading and navigating our teams through change. The recording of this particular episode will be up on our YouTube channel, which is LMC Consultancy. When you're there, subscribe and hit the notification button for updates on what it is that we're doing and our latest episodes like this one. Our social media platforms continue to inspire you and educate you. And you can find us here on Instagram as Lucy_your Clarity Coach, also on Facebook, on LinkedIn as Lucy Macridis, and on TikTok. You can find me as Clarity Coach Lucy. In fact, I just posted part 1 of May is Maying. Tomorrow I am going to be posting part 2 of May is Maying. You want to look out for it on TikTok. Guys, season 2 of Skillful She podcast is airing this Friday. You do not want to miss that episode. It's all about embracing change, focusing on adaptability and thriving. So make sure you catch the episode. I will be sharing the link here on Instagram. Father's Day also is around the corner, and I'm looking for 3 dads. I'm looking for 3 dads to share their take on how valuable they are and why society needs them. So if you're that dad, DM me right now. If you know a dad who's willing to come here and speak with us about why society needs them and how important they are, please direct message me. Let us help build each other. Until then, be kind to yourselves. Bye-bye now.